So yeah. So anyway, they've just continued on. So in 22, I guess it was, I got COVID, and must have been, I feel like it was like New Year's, like right, like very first part of January of 22, and I was sleeping in the other room trying to isolate, and I was trying to go to sleep, and I couldn't sleep because I was having really bad SVTs, and like for hours. So typically SVTs could be as few as 5 minutes or as long as, like my longest ones before COVID would last maybe an hour, hour and a half, depending on if I gave into them or not, which typically meant if I gave into them, I would sit down pretty quickly or lay down pretty quickly and just let it pass. But if I didn't, if I tried to push through, then they would last longer, right? But this time it was bad. Like COVID for me, I don't know about you, if you had it, COVID kind of went through, and every injury, everything that ever was wrong or whatever in my life, like I've broken every finger during COVID, like hurt really bad, like my knees hurt, and it really attacked the things that were wrong in my heart. So that being said, I was having a SVT for like a couple of hours, and so I went and woke up Beth and said, "Hey, I'm gonna drive myself over to the emergency room and see if they can't get me on an EKG because I'm having an SVT." I guess I should probably back up a little bit. My doctor, he actually said, you know, if you're ever having an SVT, just pop into a Virginia Mason and just tell them that you need to get on an EKG. So I did, and this is before COVID. I was working out at the gym, and I had an SVT, and luckily there was a Virginia Mason right just across the street from the gym I was working out at. And I walked in to the front desk, and I'm like, it's gonna sound very dramatic, but I need to get on an EKG. And so she, hits the button under the desk, and she's like, well, I need to have you register, fill out the thing. I'm like, I need to get. So by the time she gets done negotiating with me, I'm like, forget it. It just ended. The EKG tech comes out, and she takes me in back. She's like, let's talk about this. What do you mean you want to be on an EKG? So I explained to her the whole situation. She goes, that's never going to happen. You're never going to catch it. You're never going to get past the front desk, get onto an EKG, and have us record it. So she says, do you have an Apple Watch? And I said, no, I don't have one. So she suggested that I get one, which I did. So the Apple Watch actually has a heart recording tool. Let's see, there it is. And this, see if I can get it on here, is a pretty slick little, pretty cool little tool. While it didn't diagnose my SVTs, I was able to take the heart recording to my general practitioner because it was able to record my SVTs, the pattern, because it goes, okay, you were at 75 beats per minute, but you jumped to 250 beats per minute. And that's when he said, that looks like SVTs. I'm not a cardiologist, all of the disclaimers. So then that got me to do some studies on what SVTs are. And that helped me understand what the hell was going on inside of my heart. A little bit. Okay, so it was important to backfill that information because I never knew what it was. No doctor could ever, in the 30, 40 years of me dealing with them, tell me what it was. It was always very much a mystery for every one of the doctors. Well, I don't really know what it is. Could be this, could be that, Isn't killing you, you're gonna be fine. Your heart is healthy. Okay, it doesn't feel very healthy. Doesn't feel like that's a good thing. But the Apple Watch and that heart tool is what really led to me knowing that there's a thing, right? And that there's research on it. Okay, so now skip ahead. I'm having an episode. I drive across the street to Swedish. And if you ever want to see an emergency room get super dramatic at around 1 a.m, walk in and say, I'm having a heart issue and I'm COVID positive. It was pretty entertaining. So anyway, yeah, I get ushered to the back of the emergency department with a bunch of people in special, I think they were in yellow. And the really, really great thing is they got all the electrodes on me, and I watched the EKG tape go across, and they recorded my SVTs. And while I did not enjoy having COVID, I was thanking the Lord that finally, at 50 some odd years old, that they finally were recorded. If you've ever suffered from these things, you can imagine what a relief it was to finally have those captured. Because I can't even describe what a challenge it is to try and capture those things, so that the doctors can actually do something about it. Anyway, so they recorded, and again, this is the most severe episode I've ever had. And so the doctor, I wish I could remember the name of the medication, and my friend Heather, who is a doctor, she loves this crap, and I'll tell you, I did not enjoy this crap. He says, all right, let's push 6 units of whatever into him. Nothing, no effect. And the ER doc, it's like, looks kind of concerned. He's like, all right, let's get the cart. Huh? What? All right, let's push 24 units. Okay, still don't know. That just seems like it's a lot more than what he put the first time. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh. And the doctor's like, charge? And I'm like, I can't talk, but I know if I can hold my hand up, you can't charge me. You can't hit me with those paddles. Okay, I'm good. Okay, so I make it through that episode. They put the cart away, and they keep me in there for 6 hours monitoring me, which was boring as hell. I can't sleep. It's okay, that's fine, good. I go home, spend the rest of that day kind of napping and whatnot, dealing with COVID and whatever. Hey, I was in the emergency room, blah, blah, blah. Go to bed that night and have another big, bad session. And And so I guess I'll go back to the emergency room. So I go back to the emergency room, blah, 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 same thing. Hey, heart thing, COVID positive, back to the room. And now, the one of the nurses is the same from the night before, but a different doctor. And so he's going through the whole thing, and she's giving him the download on what happened the night before. And he says, well, let's give him a different medication tonight, because, I mean, that medication last night, nobody likes having their heart stopped. Like, they stopped my heart? Oh yeah, they stopped your heart last night to make it, reset. No wonder it felt like shit. So yeah, they actually stopped my heart to stop the SVTs. So anyway, this doctor gives me different medication, same result, and he's charging the paddles again, and I'm like, wait. Okay, all right, I'm good. So he only keeps me there for, I want to say maybe an hour or less. And he says, go see your cardiologist. So I have now two nights of well-documented SVTs recorded. Cardiologist goes through the whole thing. She orders another stress test. And this one was obviously more modern because it was last year, 22. And so this stress test was done here in Issaquah, and it was an ultrasound. So same deal, get on the treadmill, go up, go up, and while I'm get my heart rate up to like 160, 165, something like that. And okay, now you're gonna lay on your side, and they're gonna put the ultrasound thing on your heart. And then now I need you to, even though you're breathing hard, you're at your physical capacity, hold your breath, don't move, because they have to like take the snapshot and do the measurements and all that stuff. I'll tell you, I had an emotional response because I could see on the screen, I could see my valves opening and closing on the screen. And I'm like, this is a little bit weird, Like, I know that thing is in there. I know it's doing what it's supposed to be doing, but to actually see it on the screen doing what it's supposed to be doing was like, it's a little bit weird. A little bit weird. Like, there was this weird bit of denial I couldn't have anymore. Anyway, so turns out, again, heart is healthy and looks good, and a little bit large, but I'm not a small guy, as my cardiologist reminded me. Like, is that bad? She goes, you're not a small guy. All right, fair. So she refers me to a surgeon who specializes in catheter surgeries to do ablations for SVTs. She's satisfied that it's supraventricular tachycardia, and so then I go to Virginia Mason First Hill, and I meet with him, and he goes through and explains to me what is happening in my heart. And as he's explaining it to me, I actually start to tear up, and I said, I have to apologize. I'm having an emotional response to what you're showing me here. And he's like, that's okay. Why do you think that is? I said, because this monkey has been on my back. This monster's been in my chest my entire life, and I've had so many doctors and so many specialists and so many cardiologists and so many people tell me they can't tell me what it is. They don't know what it is, and you're just drawing a box with 4 quadrants on it and telling me what it is and making it so simple, and it just makes sense. And I don't know, I can't believe it's that simple. And it just feels like there's a huge amount of relief around that. And he goes, we do these every day. So anyway, I was like, I'm in. I gotta talk to my wife, my kids, but I'm in. Then he said something really, really fateful, which kind of delayed the process. And so as he's going through it, I guess I should have had a piece of paper, but as he's going through it, he's like, okay, so if your heart's in a quadrant, could be here, could be here, could be here, whatever. We don't want to screw with this one. If we do, then, if we mess that one up, then you could have we'll end up with a pacemaker, because that's that's the important one. And when we're in here, we can't see anything because your heart's full of blood. Like, what do you mean you can't see anything? Okay. Thanks. So I left, and I'm still pretty high on the whole idea of killing the monster in my heart. And then I still had but we can't see anything going on in the back of my brain. So I kind of delayed it a little bit. Had some other stuff happen in life that also minimize the need to consider that whole decision. Anyway, so finally decided to have the surgery, and I guess maybe I'll give a little pause here and then come back and tell the story of the surgery, because that's a whole it's a whole fun experience all on its own.